Well, Tule, thanks so much for sitting down to chat. I know it's about 5 in the afternoon for you, and it's morning over here in Minneapolis. So appreciate you taking the time.
Hi, Ben. It's my pleasure to talk to you today.
What did 2020 kind of mean for your touring schedule, your master classes? Are you able to do some of that online or in person?
As you might know from other artists too, we are all musicians. We are all suffer a lot in this time. To be honest, the first few months I was shocked. I was very disappointed, hearing one by one concert canceled and postponed. And then until the end of last year, I was kind of used to it. I get used to it, and I have my own routine of doing online concert workshops, making collaborations with other artists. Of course, it's not the same like being on stage and traveling, because that is the beauty of part of performing live.
Anybody who has been a fan of your YouTube and Instagram videos probably has noticed that your daughters feature in several of them playing as a guitar trio. Is that a new pursuit for them?
I started teaching them a long time ago, since they were like 4 or 5 years old, but very slowly. I don't want to force them, and also I don't have any expectation for them to become a professional guitarist. But the most important is to be connected to music and to play some instrument. So they used to learn very slowly. I was their first teacher, and there was one short time that they studied also with one of my students, but mostly with me. Yes, actually during the last year, that because I stayed at home more often and I spent more time with them, I didn't force them too much in learning difficult pieces or giving them so much pressure on technique work. But we play more like fun music, mostly trio together, and every now and then a solo piece, just for them to not to forget the technique and playing some classical music.
It sounds like your father was your first guitar teacher, and you started playing at a very young age, right? 4 or 5?
My father was my first teacher, and I started with him when I was 4 years old. Not that I remember anything before that, but he told me that actually he bought me the guitar when I was already 2 years old, a tiny small guitar. And just for me to play with it, to hold it, and just to have an idea about playing, like really play with an instrument. And he used to play for me when I was a baby, or even when I was still in my mom's stomach. And that is one of the stories that he told me. But when I was 4, he started to teach me seriously.
Do you have any memories of what that was like to learn from your father at that age?
No, it's been too long ago, and I was too small. But there are a few things that I think I could never forget. My father, how can I say? He's a strict man. He's very strict, but then at the same time, he's a very open-minded person, being a man in Vietnam in the years 70, 80. Mostly they are very old style, and I wouldn't say narrow-minded, but would be more strict. But my father always have a very open-minded opinion about everything. But of course, when it comes to study, he was very strict. And plus his main profession was a painter. So he used to just paint at home. He has a home studio, so he worked at home most of the time. So of course I have no way, if he sit there to paint, I sit next to him and practice. Also at that time, we didn't have so much distraction like nowadays for kids, we had no TV, no video games, no internet. So what you do is go out to play, go to school, and come home and practice. It's just like a normal routine. It was strict, yes, but now looking back, I feel really thankful, because I believe that when it comes to study, discipline is important. He was very strict, and he made me practice a lot, but then at the same time, he always saved time for me to go out to play, or telling story, giving direction. And he want to encourage me not just to be a guitar player, but to have the opinion of a musician.
I mean, obviously you were so immersed in the guitar at an early age, and it sounds like you auditioned for the conservatory program, and you were accepted at 7 years old. Is that right?
Yes, I remember that was the time that there were so many people taking the entry exam for the conservatory in Vietnam. So this is our main conservatory we call National Conservatory. So I remember the exam was extremely difficult. It was like more than 100 people taking the exam for the guitar department. And eventually they chose only 2 or 3 students.
And do you remember one of the pieces that you would have played at the entrance exam?
Honestly, I don't remember clearly, but what I remember was Katyusha. Katyusha, I don't know, you know Katyusha? It's the Russian song that arranged for guitar. I don't even remember who. But that was also the piece that I performed the first time on stage when I was 5 years old. So I played that. And some other, I think, Giuliani or Kakasi.
For somebody who's performed and given master classes around the world, as far as travel, what are you looking forward to being able to do in the next year or so?
I really miss traveling a lot, and I'm sure as every other artist, other musician, because the beauty of giving performance is not only just being on the stage and connecting to people, but also to meet friends, meet other musicians, traveling. And also I like to, if it's allowed, if time allow, I like to also extend 1-2 days wherever I am to go and see sightseeing and eating the local food and meeting other musicians or local musicians. So all of this is a part of traveling. And of course now what we can still do is giving online concerts and workshop and master class, but some of the beauties are missing, and I'm really missing it.
I know it's hard to pick one, but a favorite concert hall or venue that you've performed at in a certain country?
Well, I cannot pick the most favorite. I can say some that I feel really memorable. Of course, that's my first concert ever. When I was 5 years old, I played in like a theater in the center of Hanoi, and that was a share concert with my father, with my one of my old teacher, and some other guitarists in Hanoi. I remember very clearly the theater. As you small, everything looked bigger. And because many years later, I came back and I realized that it's not so big. But when I was 5 years old, I sit there on the stage, everything looked just huge. And I still remember clearly that I arrived on the stage after the MC announced my name. I arrived there, I bowed, but I couldn't get on the chair because the chair was too high. So I was just standing there looking around, and then the MC, he saw that and he came, he picked me up, he put me on the chair, and I started to play without footstool or anything, just 2 legs hanging in there. Yeah, so I can say that is my most memorable and also most meaningful concert for me. Of course, over the years, I got to play in many wonderful, wonderful places, and I just can't tell you which one is the best, because every places I go, the people I met are different or wonderful, and all give me a special memory.
But just for those kind of guitar nerds and guitar fanatics in the audience of the live stream, what instrument will you be playing?
I think I will use the guitar by the Italian luthier Gabriele Lodi. I have some guitars; they are all my favorite, but depend on the mood, on the program. If I would have the request for the luthier, always a scale of 640. Mm-hmm. And the body is a little smaller, because I'm small and I have small hands, and I would feel more comfortable.
That conversation as far as guitar making is evolving too. Everybody comes in a different hand size, and our arms are different lengths, and it just makes sense that we should have an instrument that's comfortable.
Yes, of course. Why not? Because for clothes you need your size, you need to be tailor-made. So a guitar that stick with you for many years, and sharing the journey with you. Why should you play the same guitar for everyone? Especially me, I'm really small. If I play the normal size guitar or 650, I can play, but I feel struggling a lot.
I was also going to ask too, if you have any advice for guitarists who are maybe just starting out their careers and they're looking around at tools that you use very effectively, like YouTube and Instagram?
Nowadays the young students or young guitarists, they have a lot of advantage, a lot more advantage than my time in the past. I studied without YouTube, of course. And I remember I used to have to borrow the books of my teacher home, handwriting to copy the pieces because we had no photocopy machine. So sometimes, 4 or 5 pages, 10 pages music, it take me like a month to write. I would have to do it. Nowadays, you get book online. You can go on YouTube and search for pieces that you like and listen to some great guitarists. And of course, it's also a very good way for you to promote yourself, to share your music. Let's say if you're still young and you don't have the opportunity to perform on stage yet, you can always make a YouTube channel, record yourself, post it on YouTube, and it's like also a way of sharing your music to the world, right? And I think that is wonderful, and it's all adding to your experience of performing, because when you record, it's like giving a performance, right? Some kind of pressure is there that you feel like you have to do your best to choose the best take. I would say that is a good thing about the modern technology. But also, I found also some disadvantage when it comes to study. For example, at my time, or people at my generation, when we learn a new piece, it is a new piece, like a new completely, unless if I have some cassette tape, but hardly we had any. So we really study the piece very well and read it all over again, and even to have some personal musical idea that you create yourself, because you don't know how the other play. But now everything is there on YouTube. You can watch, you can learn, you can get some idea. But many people also, not that they plan it, but somehow it's like copy and paste. So how do you use all of this? YouTube, Instagram, we watch, we learn from each other, we're sharing our thing, but difficult thing is you have to still keep yourself. So in the past, before the pandemic, I used to, if you saw some of my videos on YouTube, so they are all done by professional studio recording and cameramen in Vietnam or in Europe. But then since the last year, because I stay at home a lot, and being here in Bahrain, it's not easy to find someone who understands about recording classical music. So I just do it by myself at home. It's convenience, it's easy. What I use the most is just, simple iPhone with a microphone. And most of the video that I do at home, actually all of them, it's just all, organic sound, no editing. I still want to invest some time to learn more about this and invest a little bit more equipment that I can do by myself, even after the pandemic.
One of the videos that you've done in a guitar trio setting with your two daughters, and I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing the song title correctly, but Long May.
Long May.
Which just struck me because I listened to it and it was such a beautiful texture and melody. And I was reading that the lyrics of that song have something to do with a mother's relationship to her daughters. Is that right? Or motherhood?
So Long May means mother's heart, yes. So let me tell you the story about this video. The 1st of May was my mother's birthday. And I promised her from last year, from the year before, I promised her that this year, which is May of 2020, I would come back to celebrate her birthday, because I was never back home during that time. And it's been 11 years I'm away. So I promised her that, okay, May 2020, I don't have anything in calendar. I will come back for your birthday. And then all of a sudden, everything happened, everything locked down, and I couldn't come back. And just a few days before her birthday, I was thinking with my children that maybe we should make something like meaningful to give grandmother. And, it just came up like, I don't know, like just suddenly in my head, this melody of the song, because I remember that my mother used to love this song so much, when I was a kid, staying at home with her, and she just played on the cassette tape and played all over again. That's how I got to know the song. So I told my children, okay, let's record this song for grandmother, and made a very simple arrangement. And they learned, I think, just in 1 or 2 days, we practiced together and we recorded it and we posted it, and then we sent to her, and she was very, very happy. She was so emotional. For me, this video has a big meaning. It's not just another video of three of us, but it's a gift of us to my mother, who stay actually alone in Vietnam now. And in the last 1.5 years, of course, I couldn't come back to see her.
Is there anything that you've been working on musically that's new that you've had time to sit down and work on during the pandemic that you might not have otherwise?
I got to play many new compositions from composers who are my friends and or who are just people on Facebook and Instagram and approach me, and I listen to it. And some of them, to be honest, I don't have time to check all, but if randomly I found one and I like it, and I would practice and record and mention the composers, because I think especially during this time it's nice to help each other, to help to promote each other. And also this is a way to enrich the guitar repertoire, because if we always keep playing the same old repertoire, or all the famous pieces that everyone play, who will play the new composers or the unknown composers?
Any upcoming videos or recordings that you'd like listeners to go check out?
Very soon, I will make a series of videos to, not to teach, but also to share about my opinion, my exercise, about technique. And I'm open for people to send me requests. If you have any requests about technique or about anything that you want to that you want me to talk about or to share, I would be very happy to do, and will post it regularly. I hope you also check out my YouTube, Two-Lay Guitarist.
That should be very exciting for a lot of guitar players who maybe have more time to practice than usual.
It's nice to also sometimes sharing a little bit of, let's say, behind the scene, of how I would practice, what kind of technique I use, and to share it with audience. Some might agree with me, some might not agree, but it is the best way for us to exchange knowledge.
Are there any pieces in your program for the Guitar Society that you'd like to mention specifically?
Normally in my concerts, I would say a little bit before each piece, because I believe, when it comes with a story, it will be easier for the listener to understand. But I will play a mixed program of some Baroque, classical, Vietnamese, and also Latin American music. But yes, I could highlight two pieces. So one is a Vietnamese piece, which was written by an Italian composer, Daniel Fabio. So he wrote this piece, dedicated it to me from last year, from before the pandemic. But again, during the pandemic, I could have time to practice, and I really fall in love. He borrowed the theme from a very famous Vietnamese tune called Bèo Giặt Mây Trôi, and he wrote it with the principle of yin and yang. So it's very interesting for me to have Vietnamese music written by Italian composers, and he has a knowledge about Asian culture and Asian music. Also, it's very meaningful for me because it was dedicated to me with the name The Age of the Moon. And another piece I will play at the end of the program is it is a combination style of flamenco and classical music, Cavalcade by Mathias du Plessis. Mathias du Plessis is a young composer. This piece, if people who know him, then for sure they will know this piece. Is also very well known. For me personally, I really in love with this piece. Is a little bit flamenco influence. It's impressive. It's different, and it's like bring you into a journey. And I think it's a perfect piece to end the program. Personally, I'm really, really happy and feeling grateful during this time that I'm sitting in my home and still can be connected to you, to the audience. Also, I would like to say thanks to Minnesota Guitar Society for giving me this wonderful chance of sharing my conversation and my music.
Well, Tu, thank you so much for taking the time, and we're really happy to have you and excited to hear your music.